Hey guys, it's Jason with the Boardgame Mechanics, and today we're going to take a look at an expansion for one of our favorite biblical games, and that game is called Commissioned, and the expansion is called Commissioned: The Call. Commissioned: The Call is a game for 1 to 6 players. It's from Chara Games, and this is a cooperative game where you're taking on the role of an apostle or 2 new female characters. They're not technically apostles, but for the sake of this game, they're going to be called apostles. And you're trying to spread Christianity throughout the historical Roman world that's outlined in the Bible using that era map. So this is essentially, it functions kind of like a pandemic in reverse, where instead of trying to get the cubes off, you're trying to put cubes representing church members on the board. Now this is the expansion. I've never covered the actual game, so I'm going to kind of do both of them together in one. But this expansion is going to give you a couple new characters, some different mechanisms, a few new scenarios, and some chains. So that's enough talking. Let's get out of the table. Check it out. All right, so here's a game of Commissioned with the Call expansion incorporated in. So what does the Call expansion add? Well, I'm going to show you how the gameplay works because I've never done a commission review. But the Call expansion adds Phoebe and Priscilla as new apostles. We know they're not really apostles, but they have cool biblical tie-ins and cool theme to their board, so they get added. There's chains, which I'll explain as we play. There's restore action to help you get rid of chains. And there's some new trial cards, new faith cards all around. There's some division tokens. You can see them in there. And there are 2 new scenarios. There's Passing the Torch, which is what I'm going to be playing here, which I have all set up. And there is Council of Jerusalem. So a whole bunch of stuff that you got to add. Oh, and there's also fellowship stops now, as opposed to just missionary and growth stops. All right, so to set up Passing the Torch, you're going to play in a 2-player game. You're going to play in the green region and the orange region. One of the players is going to set up church in Jerusalem. One of them is going to set up a church in Philadelphia with 3 church members. And there's going to be 2 other churches that have been established not adjacent to Jerusalem, which I broke that rule. So right there. So at least 1 space away from Jerusalem. So that's what we've done here. And same over here, there's a church in Ephesus, 2 cities away from Jerusalem. All right. Also to set up, you're going to give each player 2 number 2 cards randomly and 1 chain to get started. And that's it. The goal of this scenario is to get 4 missionaries trained up into the world, which are these little meeples right here, and to have at least 1 church member in every city in those 2 regions. We lose if we put out if 5 churches get snuffed out, or if we get through all this deck of trial cards. I'm not going to play that long, but I'm just going to kind of show you at least a round so we can see how we're playing. Also, I'm not going to be tucking. Normally in the game you can tuck Bible books down here on the board to help you accomplish some stuff in the game. I'm not going to do that just for sheer sake of room, but you can also play these number 2 cards in the appropriate book to start building the New Testament canon. All right, so let's get rolling. So I've made Phoebe the first elder. That's why she has the staff. And what we're going to do here is the first thing that happens on a turn, which you can find on this card, is I'm just going to leave it here because we only need the top section here. We're going to draw our hand up to 6 cards. So we've done that. Both of our players have done that. We each have 6 cards. Then we're going to do the live phase twice in a 2-player game. What that means is we're going to do these following steps. We're going to do a trial. So we're going to take the top trial card, we're going to flip it. All right, so what that means is these bad things, adding 2 fellowship stops, is going to happen in the church where the elder is. So we're going to come up here and put 2 of these fellowship stops. So that's bad. That's going to help make members leave the church at the end of the round. So no bueno there. Then we're going to divide. This is a new element in the call. So we're going to divide the church. What that means is the biggest church in the elders region, which is green, is going to, and it doesn't have an apostle or missionary, that's key, is going to suffer some division. Just like, churches actually do. They suffer division. So you're going to reach in here, grab a token. These are normally going to be one-sided, but this is a prototype, so they're double-sided. And this stop is now going to get placed on that church. So it's a missionary stop. So we're going to a mission stop. So we're going to do that. We're going to put the mission stop up there in that church. If it ever gets a second division, the church gets snuffed out. So that is no bueno. Then what we're going to do is we're going to pray. This is the crux of the game. This is where we're going to play cards, pick cards, and take some actions on the board. So in a 2-player game, we're going to pray 2 cards down twice. So we're going to do this thing that I just did. We're going to do a trial, division, and play cards twice on our board. So here's Priscilla's cards. Priscilla is going to negate chains. Once I play a chain down, I'll kind of explain that. And she also has this card in her hand, which is a Bible book card, which we don't really need that right now. So I'm going to go ahead and play these 2 down. They normally go face down, but I kind of want to show you how it's going. You can discuss these kind of freely in this one. You can't talk about the chains you have, like which power, which stops are going to do, but that's fine. So we'll put down a Phoebe card because we had to get rid of some heart stops. Let's just do another one. All right, so that is the turn. So that now what Phoebe is going to do, she's going to pick 2 of these 4 cards that have been prayed to play on the board. She's actually going to play her own cards because that's going to be helpful. So she's going to play these 2 cards to remove 2 fellowship stops from her church. So now she's not going to lose any church members when she's done after the end of the round. We're going to come over here and we're going to discard the cards. Same with these, even though we didn't play them, we're still going to discard them. So that's gives you 4 options of cards, and effectively if you play your card down, it gets discarded. All right. Then what we're going to do is we're going to do the next steps. We are going to move. So we can allow 2 movements. There's 2 different types of movements. There's a fellowship movement, which means you can take a church member from one church to an adjacent church if there's already church members there. So if there was a church member here, I could just slide this guy over there. That's fine. You're basically growing a church, or they moved or whatever. And then there's also a missionary movement. To do that, you need an apostle or a missionary, and you have to have a church that has at least 4. Then you can take your cubes and create another church. So I think I'm going to do that one because this church has 4, counting my apostle. So I'm going to grab 2 of them. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to make a new church. It's risky, but it was risk in growing the church. So that's one movement. And then let's see. I don't think I can do any other movements. I'll actually move this one over here to protect it from division again. So I'm going to leave these 2 churches unattended, but c'est la vie. Then what we're going to do is we're going to grow churches. Any church that has 3 or more people is going to grow. So that not just in Phoebe's region, but everywhere. So these, and this church grows. And that is turn number 1. Then what we're going to do is we're going to do the trial phase again for Priscilla. So she's now the elder. We're going to do it again. So she's going to flip a trial. No moving in Priscilla's region. So Priscilla, which is the clear pawn. Again, prototype. She should have orange, but it's fine. She can't move in that region. So we can still manipulate stuff over here and grow Phoebe's area and help her out, but we cannot do anything over here. Then what we're going to do is we're going to divide. So the biggest church that doesn't have an apostle or missionary is going to divide. So we're going to take out a division token for this church. We're going to grab another fellowship stop token. Man, these are rough. All right, so now this church is going to have people leave if we can't figure out a way to make that stop. Then what we're going to do is we're going to pray. So same thing, we're going to play 2 cards. Priscilla's going to play this one and this one because those are her best cards. And again, Phoebe, you play these face down because, it's what you do. So we'll go here. She's going to play these cards. All right, so then Priscilla gets to pick the couple cards that she wants to play. So what she's going to do is she wants to... I'm actually going to play these 2 cards. So we're going to get rid of the fellowship stop and the missionary stop. These cards are discarded. These cards are discarded even though we didn't use them. Now we're allowed to do 2 movements. Can't do any movement in the red region. So we're going to have to do some movements over here. I don't know if I want to do that. So let's take one of these church members over here. And then... man, we are struggling. That's the only movement I'm going to do, I think. I'm just going to move that 1 church cube around. Then we're going to grow. So any church that has 3, the apostle counts as a church member. So 1, 2, 3. But technically, oh, no, never mind. Disregard. Okay. Then done. Oh, I didn't put that there. All right. Now, the last thing I haven't shown you in a round is called the mature phase. Couple things that can happen here. So I'm going to do both. I'm going to do a normal thing, but normally what you would do is you have some faith value, which you can see up there in the footprints. So this would be worth 2 buying power to get new cards. I could buy any amount of cards that equal to that. So I could buy 2 1s or 2, whatever. Then I would discard these cards, take the newly acquired card, put them in a discard pile. That's the standard game. But what I want to do is I want to get this chain out of this person's hand, or try to. So I'm going to try to restore them. So let's show you how that works. So Priscilla didn't have a chain in her hand, so she's going to bypass her mature phase. She gets to take a number 3 faith card. So she's going to go ahead and grab this one. So she gets this to go in her hand. We'll flip a new one. And that technically goes in her discard pile. Now what she's going to do is she's going to draw a restore card. So there's going to be some text. There's going to be a problem. The reason the person's facing the chain. So they have some problems here. I'll read it. But the person who has the chain is going to pick one of these items. It's going to do something for the restorer and something for the person being restored. Could be good, could be bad, could be neutral, whatever. You may get rid of your chain out of the game. You may not. So here's what it is. I see that you have a lot to offer to our church and to specific people. When I do suggest you volunteer your skills, you say you aren't good enough. When I persist, do you get upset to say this always happens with a new church, or just stop coming? So when people try to push you to volunteer in the church, do you either stop coming, or do you say this always happens? So they're going to say, I say this always happens. So that's what they picked. So here's what's going to happen. So there's going to be a me. So the restorer gets to pick a 2 faith card. So I'm going to grab this card. It's going to help me get some cubes. Flip a new one. And then the restoree gets to, they keep the chain, so they don't get to discard their chain out into the discard pile. It stays here. But they get to pick a 1 faith card. So this is just not a great card, because neither one of these options gets rid of your chain, which kind of stinks. But they get an extra card, so that's fine. Let's just take this one. So that's how the restore works. And then when you restore, it gets discarded in a discard pile. If the chain got removed, it would be discarded out of here, out of this person's faith deck. But in this case, it didn't happen that way, so it stays in the faith deck. And we'll refill everything. And this is how we're going to play until either we've gotten 4 missionaries, which I need to explain something about that before we are done, or 4 missionaries and a church member in all these green and red regions, or we lose by having 5 of our churches snuffed out, or we run out of trial cards. So now let's talk about how we're going to get the missionaries, because I didn't do that because that's kind of tough. There's a couple things that need to happen. First thing that needs to happen is one of our apostles needs to be in a church to battle off the division. So to do that, you are going to have an apostle there. You have to have a word card played. So somebody would have had to have this card available with the Bible verses at the bottom, or chapter books of the Bible at the bottom. You have to use this card. Then you have to roll a die equal to or greater than the amount of church members here. So I'd roll the die. I got a 3. In that case, I failed, but hang on, I'll still show you what happened. So let me go ahead and set this up like we were actually doing it. So I discard this card because I used it. But when that happens, 2 church members leave. So it's going to make it easier to do it again. So there's another Bible book card. I'm going to try it again. So I roll. I got to get a 3 or higher. I get a 2. Man. All right. So say I got, whatever, just for the sake of this example, I got a 5. That means I have successfully healed the division in this church. So I'm going to take this division token, put it on my board. Now that's step 1. Step 2 to get in a missionary is the following. I need to have a division token on my board. So this elder, it's this player's turn. I need to have a division token on my board. I need to be in a church that, any church that has some church members. Then there has to be 2 available cards for here. So you're basically going to spend your whole sharing phase, which is the time where you play cards. You're going to take both of these Bible book cards, and you are going to take a church member away, replace it with a missionary, and discard the division token out. So that's how you heal division and how you train up a missionary. This cube goes away, and that's that. Then you can, start protecting your churches from division, move over here, start expanding. It makes life easier. So that's commissioned with the call, passing the torch scenario, and let's go up the top, see what we think about it. All right, well, that was commissioned the call. I gotta say, I've liked commission for a long time. We've owned it for a really long time. I've never gotten around to covering it on the channel. I've covered other games from this company, Soul of the Empire, great game, but I've never covered this. So what better time to cover it than when I'm covering the expansion. So as you can see in the expansion just adds basically more stuff, and it's going to throw in some new characters with new powers, which is always cool. And the big difference on this one is the division, breaking up churches, One part I didn't show you is another scenario. There's going to be legalism tokens, and you're trying to, get rid of all the legalism in the church and all that stuff. I haven't played that scenario, so I'm not going to talk about it, but there is that one. And you're also getting chains. You're trying to restore people of their chains, and there's just crazy trials and just crazy. So the scenarios are hard. The game beats you around, and that's what makes for a good co-op. So as you saw in the video, everything that I showed you is kind of what comes in the game. I had a prototype, so keep all that in mind. The division tokens are going to look different. The card sizes were different. The expansion card sizes were a little bit smaller, made shuffling a little difficult, but that'll all be sorted out. This is a prototype, just so you can see how the game plays. So this doesn't really change the game fundamentally. You're still kind of doing the same thing. You're playing some cards down, you're doing some deck building, you're working together to try to spread the church around, make missionaries, all that stuff. But the new scenarios are cool. The base game, I think, has 5 or 6 scenarios. I'm not sure. I've only played a couple of them. And this one has 2, and the chains. So you could play the chains just with the base game. You could use the new players just with the base game. You could throw everything in together like I kind of did, which is madness, and you're going to get slapped around. So I wouldn't recommend that. So if you like commissioned, and you like more stuff for commission, more scenarios, more fun, more challenge, commissioned is the call. Something you need to check out. So I'm going to go ahead and rank this whole thing. I'm going to give it a BGM accepted seal. And I'm going to give all this whole package together, so commissioned and the call, a 7.5 on BGG, which is a 3.75 out of 5 wrenches on an arbitrary wrench scale. That means absolutely nothing. But we give it to games that we enjoy because that's what we do. And we like to do it. So that was commissioned and commissioned the call expansion, which will be hitting Kickstarter on Tuesday coming up. I'll put the actual date in the bottom of this because I'm terrible with dates. I don't even know what day it is. My kids are at home from school because they're doing school at home. It's just a crazy mess. So I'll put the actual physical numerical date at the bottom of this so you can check it out. There'll also be a link to the Kickstarter page in the video description in case this game looks intriguing. You can go throw some support. So I'm Jason with the Boardgame Mechanics. That was commissioned and commissioned the call. And as always, keep gaming.